All right, folks, Mr. Rachel back here with Coach Biffle. We're on the Geometry Show. We'd like to welcome you to the show. And we are talking about our second in a 3 series of videos about how we write the equation of a circle. Now, you'll know from the last time we gave you the radius, but on this problem, it tells us to write the equation of a circle that passes through 2, 3, has a center of 2, -1. Well, what are we going to do? What is the difference between this problem and the one you just worked? That's right, you do not have a radius. So we're going to start out the first part with information that we know, and then we're going to look for that mysterious radius that we need to solve this problem. So the radius is going to be x. Or the radius, we are going to put a question mark. R. The radius is R. We don't know what this is, but we know that it's passing through 2, 3. We're going to come back to finding the radius in just a minute, but let's go ahead and start with our equation, right? How does our equation look? It's x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals the radius squared, whatever that may be. We don't know what the radius is yet, but there's a way that we can find it, okay? All right, but let's go ahead and plug in what we do know. What is the opposite of h? That's right, it's -2. So we're putting that -2 in the parentheses. It's really -2, but y'all feel me. All right, opposite of -1, +1, because minus a -1 is a +1 equals r squared. So we know we're right on the left side of our equation. We just need to figure out what this radius is. Well, how do we figure out the length between 2 points? What is that rule? Does anybody know? How do you figure out the length between 2 points on a graph? What is that thing we use? Who knows? It's the distance formula. Remember the distance formula? Your old friend from the first semester. Outstanding. Well, that distance formula looks like this. The distance is equal to the difference of the x's squared plus the difference of the y squared, and then we take the square root of whatever that number is. So now, but we have 2 points, so now we can't figure this out. So I'm going to begin plugging in my numbers, and my distance, our points are 2, 3 and 2, -1. Those are the numbers that we're going to be plugging into our distance formula. So our distance formula is equal to the square root of the quantity. What are our x's? Our x2 and our x1 are 2's. So 2 minus 2 squared plus what are our y's? -1 and 3 squared. So 3 minus -1 squared. Now, because this term is being squared, it really doesn't matter what order you put the x's or the y's in, as long as you keep the x's together and the y's together. And so as we work that out, we get 0 squared plus 4 squared, and we continue working that out, and you have 4 squared is 16. The square root of 16 is 4. All right, so the radius, our distance is 4, which ends up being the radius. Here's a funny little factoid too. So when we go ahead and plug our numbers in, we can plug our radius of 4 back into our equation. What does that look like? And so when we work that out, the last thing you need to do is just square the 4, and you get 16. And so your equation of your circle on this problem is x minus 2 squared plus y plus 1 squared equals 16. So the key on this problem is we had to figure out what the radius was as we started the problem. So let's take a look now at our next problem in your notes. Same type of problem. A circle with the center at 5, 4 has a radius with an endpoint at -3, 4. Write an equation of the circle. So we know the endpoint of the radius is -3, 4, but we don't know what that radius is just yet. So we're going to figure out what the equation of this circle is with our equation of a circle, and we are going to use a distance formula again to solve the problem. So we start out with x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. And now just plug in your values for your center. Remember that's your opposite of whatever is at your center point for h. So it's x minus 5 squared plus y minus 4 squared. And we just need to figure out what that r squared is. And so now we're going to go back and use our distance formula again. And then, so you just begin plugging your numbers in. You know that your endpoints are 5, 4 and negative 3, 4. I don't want to say endpoints. I should say the center and the endpoint of the radius. There we go. So I'm using correct vocabulary there. All right, so as we get prepared to plug numbers in, so I'm just applying my distance formula. And that means 8 squared, and my y's basically cancel out there. So it's going to be the square root of 8 squared, which is the square root of 64. And the square root of 64 simplifies to 8. So I know that my radius is equal to 8. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to take my 8, and now I'm plugging that into the equation. And then as you work that out, you just expand the 8 squared. And there you go. That is what your length of your, that's the equation of your circle for that problem. All right. And so that is how you write equations of a circle when you need to find the radius if it's not given to you.